Hello, I'm Dilek Tuna. You're watching A News. Let's take a look at today's top stories. The US continues search for missing crew member from a downed jet as Iran offers a reward for their capture. Iran allows humanitarian ships through the Strait of Hormuz. And NASA unveils first images of Earth from Artemis 2. The 2 US warplanes reportedly shot down by Iran, with 2 pilots rescued and a third still missing, is being searched for by Tehran. It's first time that an American aircraft was downed in the Iran war, which broke out when the US and Israel attacked Tehran on the 28th of February.
A US Air Force F-15E Strike Eagle was downed over Iran, and combat search and rescue efforts are underway for any survivors. Both crew members ejected from the aircraft, with one being rescued alive and receiving medical attention. The search for the second crew member continues. US sources confirmed the aircraft was an F-15E Strike Eagle, capable of both air-to-air and air-to-ground missions. The F-15 is typically crewed by a pilot and a weapons systems officer. Iranian security forces are also searching for the missing crew member, with officials urging citizens to find him alive. Rewards of up to $66,100 are being offered to those who help capture the airman. Meanwhile, Iran claims it has shot down an American A-10 Warthog that was part of the search and rescue mission for the first downed aircraft. The Warthog's pilot ejected over the Gulf and was subsequently rescued, CBS reports. Separately, the US says that 365 service members have been wounded in action since the start of the US-Israeli war with Iran. This incident marks the first time a US aircraft has been shot down over Iran during the conflict. Earlier in the war, 3 F-15s were accidentally shot down by Kuwaiti air defenses in a friendly fire incident.
Iran has granted permission for ships carrying humanitarian aid and essential goods to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. The strait had been closed after the US and Israel launched a military operation against the Islamic Republic at the end of February. Initially, US President Donald Trump threatened to destroy Iranian power plants if the restrictions on the strait were not lifted. Tehran warned that it would block the strait completely in response. The European Union is preparing for a long period of high energy prices as the war in the Middle East continues to disrupt global supply chains and increase uncertainty across oil and gas markets. EU Energy Commissioner Dan Jorgensen has warned the crisis could be long-lasting, with the bloc considering contingency measures including the possible release of strategic reserves and fuel-saving mechanisms. Analysts warn sustained high prices could influence inflation, industrial output and economic growth across Europe. Jorge Costa Oliveira, political analyst from Lisbon, Portugal, joins us now to discuss further. George, welcome to the program.
My pleasure.
Now, the EU's energy chief has warned this could become a long-term crisis. What factors are driving expectations here that high prices may persist?
Well, it's very likely that all that you mentioned is going to be correct. It's true that the European Union, in terms of oil, is not really dependent, more than 5%, on supply coming from the Strait of Hormuz. On LNG, the issue is already rather different. But in any case, the rising prices and the limitation on the capacity to increase the supply is, apart from all the logistics factors, is going to make reserves only be useful for 5 months, perhaps 6 months, depending on the countries. And overall, the inflationary crisis that expects us all, and not only in Europe but in other parts of the world, is inevitable with all that it entails in terms of other sectors, in terms of and On the other hand, in terms of logistics, we have to be prepared for the fact that things are going to be also far more complicated. Poor logistics, difficulties in finding shipment, increases in insurance prices, things don't look good.
So the Strait of Hormuz disruptions already caused major volatility in oil and gas prices. How exposed is Europe to prolonged instability in global supply routes?
Oh, it's very exposed. Not in the short term immediately, but after the reserves go, after some temporary measures are taken, it's very clear that Europe is exposed, basically because the prices are going to go up on one hand, but also because the overall, the autonomy of Europe in this area is limited. Therefore, it's necessary to speed up projects for new sources of energy. The European Union has mentioned that, for instance, as regards nuclear. But the truth is that the great bet that most European countries have made and the European Commission have made in terms of the stable energy source was on gas. And with gas now being more scarce and almost doubling the price in future terms, things are going to be very complicated for European markets and European companies.
Okay, George, that's all we have time for this evening. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your analysis.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Iran has formally rejected a United States proposal for a 48-hour ceasefire. That's according to Fast News Agency. The source said the proposal was made on Wednesday through another country, which was not named. The source added that Washington has stepped up its diplomatic efforts to secure a ceasefire, particularly after an Iranian strike targeted a US military forces depot on Kuwait's Bubiyan Island. The report mentioned that Iran's response to the offer was not given in writing, but through the continuation of attacks in the battlefield. There was no immediate comment or confirmation from the United States. And in news from Gaza, power cuts have become a daily reality. With electricity available only intermittently, many civilians are struggling to carry out even the most basic tasks. Water systems and other key infrastructure are under strain, and it's becoming harder to keep essential services running.
Long power cuts in Gaza are putting serious pressure on essential services. Residents now have limited access to water, healthcare and sanitation, making an already fragile humanitarian situation even worse. Electricity cuts have become part of daily life. With power available only at certain times, many people are struggling to manage even basic needs.
I carry water in small containers. We don't have a large water tank, not even 500 litres, so we have to keep going back and forth, and water is not always available. Sometimes my son returns without being able to fill it.
The consequences are widespread, affecting everything from water supply systems to critical infrastructure. As outages persist, maintaining essential services is becoming increasingly unsustainable. This ongoing energy crisis has also had a severe impact on critical hospitals, which rely heavily on generators to continue operating.
If the generators stop, it will be a catastrophe and a real danger to everyone in the hospital, especially premature babies, dialysis patients. We are sounding the alarm that hospitals will stop functioning if fuel and oil are not allowed in as soon as possible.
International humanitarian organisations say essential services in Gaza could collapse if electricity supplies continue to be disrupted. According to Gaza's municipality, around 75 water wells depend on electricity and could shut down, making conditions even harder for displaced families whose homes have been destroyed.
Over to Europe now. Hungary could be on the verge of a major political shift as Prime Minister Viktor Orban faces a strong challenge from former ally Peter Magyar ahead of the April 12th election. Polls show Magyar in the lead, pointing to potential changes in the country's politics and its relationship with the EU.
Hungary is heading to a crucial election on April 12th, where Prime Minister Viktor Orban, Europe's longest-serving leader, could lose power after 16 years in office. Opinion polls suggest the race is tight, with Orban's former ally, Peter Magyar, leading a strong challenge. Orban has dominated Hungarian politics since 2010, promoting what he calls illiberal Christian democracy and positioning himself as a defender of traditional family values against Western liberalism. His governments have centralized power, limited independent media, and clashed repeatedly with the European Union over migration, LGBTQ+ rights, and financial support for Ukraine. Orban has also maintained close ties with Moscow, blocking EU funding for Kyiv and continuing energy deals with Russia. Peter Magyar, 45, launched his centre-right teaser party in 2024 and quickly gained popularity, especially among younger and urban voters. His campaign appeals to Hungarians frustrated by economic stagnation, rising inflation, and the influence of oligarchs close to Orban. Magyar has promised stronger anti-corruption measures, more transparent public procurement, judicial independence, and a two-term limit for prime ministers. He also aims for a more constructive relationship with the EU while keeping Hungary pragmatic on Russia and migration issues. Political analysts warn that a Magyar victory could signal a shift toward a more pro-European Hungary and potentially unlock billions of euros in frozen EU funds. Yet Orban's entrenched support in rural areas and his role as a key figure in Europe's far-right movement mean the election remains highly competitive. The outcome will be closely watched beyond Hungary, as the country has played an outsized role in European politics despite its small size, influencing debates over EU unity, far-right movements, and relations with Russia.
The Springs fire in California's Moreno Valley spread rapidly on Friday, fueled by windy conditions and prompting evacuation orders across parts of the Riverside County. The National Weather Service issued a wind advisory, citing gusts of up to 80 kilometres per hour that contributed to the fire's swift growth. Local authorities reported that the fire had expanded to 4,000 acres by mid-afternoon. Emergency teams are working to contain the blaze as evacuation orders remain in place for affected areas. And the first images of Earth taken by astronauts on the Artemis 2 mission were unveiled on Friday. The crew has several devices on board to take photographs from inside their Orion capsule. Devices included GoPro action cameras, iPhones, and professional Nikon cameras. The mission launched from Florida on Wednesday, and on day 6, was launched from Florida on Wednesday, and on day 6, the astronauts are expected to reach roughly 252,000 miles from Earth, the most distant point ever flown by humans. Now let's take a look at the major stories from the region. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has arrived in Istanbul for substantive talks on security issues with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Earlier, Turkish Communications Director Burhanettin Duran said that meetings will focus on bilateral issues as well as efforts to establish a ceasefire in the Russia-Ukraine war, with a particular focus on the Istanbul process. Ukraine has recently signed security cooperation agreements with Saudi Arabia, the UAE and Qatar, and says it is in talks with several other Middle Eastern states about similar arrangements. Another convoy of aid is heading from Azerbaijan to Iran. It's part of ongoing efforts to support the Iranian people during this time of need. Our correspondent Gulcin Kojalieva reports.
Behind me, these aid trucks are preparing to depart as Azerbaijan once again demonstrates its support for neighboring Iran with a new shipment of humanitarian assistance. The aid is being sent on the instructions of President Ilham Aliyev, aimed at helping meet the growing needs of the Iranian population. In total, 200 tons of supplies are being delivered, the majority consisting of food products along with medicines and medical equipment. The latest shipment comes as humanitarian needs in Iran continue to rise, with increasing pressure on essential supplies and healthcare resources.
At a time when Iran is facing extremely difficult circumstances following military attacks, this support is of great significance. As you know, there has been a global response, with people in many countries expressing their solidarity with the Iranian people. However, it's important to emphasize that the Republic of Azerbaijan has played a leading role in this regard. It was among the first countries to send humanitarian aid, and the continued delivery of assistance demonstrates its commitment to sustaining this support and once again reaffirming its solidarity.
Azerbaijan has already sent several rounds of aid in recent weeks, underscoring what officials describe as an ongoing commitment to support the people of Iran during a difficult period. This convoy of 10 trucks will now carry that assistance across the border, reinforcing both humanitarian support and regional solidarity in the face of continuing challenges. This is Gülçin Hocalayeva with Nijat Kasımov for A News.
The Civil Contract Party has nominated Nikol Pashinyan as its candidate for Prime Minister, following unanimous support at an extraordinary party congress. The agenda of the 8th Extraordinary Congress includes 3 key issues to be decided by open vote: approving the party's electoral list for the June 2026 parliamentary elections, confirming Pashinyan's candidacy, and adopting the party's election programme. Azerbaijan's position as an energy supplier and transit hub is becoming increasingly important for Europe as countries seek to diversify supply routes amid instability affecting traditional energy corridors. The Southern Gas Corridor and related infrastructure projects have strengthened Azerbaijan's role in supplying natural gas to European markets, particularly as the EU looks to reduce vulnerability to geopolitical disruptions. Analysts say Azerbaijan's strategic location between Central Asia and Europe has increased its relevance as both a producer and transit country in emerging energy connectivity projects. Now let's bring in our guest, Torul Hasanzadeh, European University Viadrina alumni, European Studies Specialist from Berlin, Germany. Torul, welcome to the program.
Hello, thank you for the invitation.
Now, Europe's been actively diversifying its energy suppliers. How significant has Azerbaijan become in the EU's broader energy security strategy?
Well, today European Union is facing an energy crisis, especially since the Russian-Ukrainian conflict began in 2022, and as in July 2022, Azerbaijan signed the agreement with European Union. The relations, especially in the field of the energy partnership between European Union and Azerbaijan, increased. Also, it's very important to say that European Union is #1 external economical partner for Azerbaijan, and of the European Union total gas imports, Azerbaijan's share in this is 3%. So currently, as the Hormuz Strait is blocked, and in the northern part of in Russia, in Ukraine, the routes are blocked. Azerbaijan, which is located between China, Central Asia, and Europe, started to play a huge role as a supplier, as a reliable partner, and I think that European Union itself is very interested to improve these relations between Azerbaijan and European Union.
Okay, and as tensions affect routes such as the Strait of Hormuz, does Azerbaijan's geographic position increase its strategic importance as a transit hub?
Of course, Azerbaijan has a goal to be an international transport hub corridor, and takes steps toward that, and make investments in a railway infrastructure, in a transport corridor infrastructures. especially after resolving of the Armenian-Azerbaijani conflict, the region got more stable, which is also very important for the European Union, for the investors, and the two actors, let's say, are trying to make the more steps to make the region more secure, make more cooperation, and as Azerbaijan tries to make a peace deal with Armenia, that will also make a huge input of the stabilization and the increasing of the role of Azerbaijan and this middle transport corridor.
Okay. Tuğrul, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I appreciate your analysis. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
The Bushehr nuclear power plant in Iran came under attack, reportedly by US and Israeli forces, resulting in the death of one employee, according to Iran's Atomic Energy Organization. According to the IAEO, an explosion and shrapnel damaged one building, but the main facility and its operations were not affected. The strikes are part of ongoing regional tensions in the Middle East, which have included attacks on military and strategic targets by multiple countries. Heavy rain has been affecting daily life in Muğla, a city in southwestern Turkey. The downpour has led to flooding in several neighbourhoods. In the district of Fethiye, the downpour began on Friday and continued through the night, at times becoming more intense. Drivers found it difficult to pass through flooded areas, facing challenging conditions. In some places, farmland and citrus gardens were also flooded, causing concern for local farmers. Meanwhile, in parts of Fethiye Bay, the sea turned brown and as muddy water flowed in from nearby streams. The rain is expected to continue on and off until the evening. Landmines continue to pose a serious threat in Azerbaijan, endangering lives and slowing post-conflict recovery. Since 2020, hundreds of civilians have been killed or injured, highlighting the urgent need for ongoing demining efforts. Innovative technologies, including robotic solutions, are helping the country lead by example in mine clearance and humanitarian safety.
Landmines are silent traps hidden beneath the ground, widely used in conflicts due to their low cost, ease of deployment and long-lasting impact. To raise awareness of the dangers they pose, the International Day for Mine Awareness and Assistance in Mine Action is observed annually on April 4th. The day highlights ongoing mine clearance efforts, support for victims and the importance of global cooperation. The threat posed by landmines is severe and ongoing, with over 100 million people worldwide at risk. The United Nations Mine Action Service, UNMAS, has spent more than 20 years supporting communities affected by explosive hazards, ensuring the safety of civilians, peacekeepers and humanitarian workers. Its work includes mine clearance, risk education and assistance for affected populations. Every year, thousands of people fall victim to landmines. According to the UN, one person is killed or injured by a mine every hour, with children being particularly vulnerable. Mines continue to pose a danger to civilians long after conflicts have ended. Globally, the legacy of wars and conflicts remains visible in many countries. International monitoring reports indicate that over 50 countries and territories are affected by mine contamination. In 2023, more than 5,000 people were killed or injured by mines and unexploded ordnance, an increase of 22% compared to 2022. Approximately 37% of the victims were children. Countries such as Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, Yemen and Ukraine continue to face widespread contamination, significantly impacting human life and post-conflict recovery efforts. Azerbaijan is also among the countries affected by mine hazards. landmines left over from the occupation period continue to pose serious risks to human life and economic activity. In the post-conflict period, these areas remain a major obstacle to safe return for displaced populations. Since 2020, 421 people in Azerbaijan have been affected by mine explosions, including 72 fatalities and 349 serious injuries. According to Presidential Assistant Hikmat Hajiev, that for over 30 years, about 12% of Azerbaijan's land was contaminated with more than 1.5 million landmines. Mine contamination continues to hinder reconstruction efforts in Karabakh and East Zangezur and complicates the return of former internally displaced persons. Overall, since 1991, 3,400 people in Azerbaijan have fallen victim to landmines, including 362 children and young people and 38 women. Mine clearance operations in Azerbaijan are continuing at an intensive pace. So far, over 69,000 hectares of land have been made safe and cleared. At the same time, more than 52,000 unexploded ordnance have been discovered and neutralized. Azerbaijan has set an example in mine action by applying technological approaches. Robotic technologies not only protect human life but also speed up post-conflict reconstruction and contribute to international cooperation. Despite global progress in mine action, challenges such as limited resources, lack of political will, and technical difficulties remain. The continued presence of landmines in more than 50 countries highlights the need for long-term international collaboration and sustained investment.
And that's the news for this hour. Stay tuned to A News for more updates.